Tell me again where you were the night Tessa Whitfield died. The detective slides photos across a metal table. Blood spatter, a brass candlestick, a woman's body. I already told you, says Arjun Mukherjee, his accent thickening under pressure. I was at work. Cut to Mrs. Peterson, 67, peering through Venetian blinds. The Indian man, always watching, always so different. Never trusted him. Cut to Mr. Wilson, jogging neighbor. Greg was the weird one. That radio show of his gave me the creeps. Always talking about conspiracy theories. Two couples in one neighborhood, 4 people with contradicting stories. A text message flashes on screen. She knows. We need to talk. Now. Who sent it? And to whom? Was it culture that divided them, or something far more human? The Mukherjees seemed nice enough, says the local barista, until they started spending too much time with the Whitfields. Then everything changed. We found something in the victim's phone, an officer whispers. You won't believe this. The detective's eyes widen as she reads the message thread. What drives ordinary people to extraordinary violence? Was it love, jealousy, or a deadly game gone wrong? 4 neighbors, 2 marriages, 1 deadly arrangement. And the truth? It's worse than anyone imagined. Welcome back to Altar of Secrets, where marriage hides its most dangerous secrets. Thank you to our loyal subscribers and everyone joining us for the first time today. Our mission? Transforming real-life events into stories that expose warning signs many miss until it's too late. If you're new, this is your time to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss our uploads on relationships that crossed boundaries with deadly consequences. Drop a like if you're already suspecting what happened to the Mukherjees and Whitfields. Tell us where you're watching from, and if such is possible in your country. Now let's return to Maplewood Heights, where 2 couples' experiment shattered 4 lives forever. I see things others don't, says Brian Lowell, adjusting his mail carrier's cap. The Mukherjees moved in last spring. Nice couple, but the way neighbors watched them, like they were aliens. Arjun Mukherjee, precision in his walk, exactness in his words, brought Mumbai efficiency to American suburbia. His wife Kavita's spice blog gained followers while their garden bloomed with marigolds that stood out among the uniform roses. Across the street lived the Whitfields. Greg, whose midnight radio show featured conspiracy theories and mysterious callers. His wife Tessa restored antiques, giving new life to forgotten treasures. The Mukherjees didn't fit our neighborhood aesthetic, says Rita Jennings, HOA president, pursing her lips. But Greg and Tessa welcomed them immediately. Unusual for the Whitfields, they typically kept to themselves. The annual block party changed everything. Security footage shows 4 strangers becoming fast friends over spicy food and vintage jazz records. I watched them that night, confesses Diana Moore, who had pursued Greg unsuccessfully years before. The way Greg looked at Kavita, not just friendly, something more. And Tessa noticed too. What neighborhood gossip didn't see, the quiet conversations in corners, the lingering touches, the private jokes that excluded others. Kavita's laugh was different around Greg, notes Brian the mail carrier, more genuine than with her husband. A text from an unknown number. Bored with your marriage? There are solutions. Who sent it? And more importantly, who responded? The next week, Diana recalls, they started having dinner together, every single Friday. And that's when the neighborhood began to whisper. Friday dinners evolved into something more intimate. At Maple Street Cafe, owner Rosa Martinez watched the couples grow closer. They'd stay for hours, first time separate chairs. By the 3rd visit, sitting side by side, partners switched, body language doesn't lie. Rosa lowers her voice. Greg would touch Kavita's arm when speaking. His wife noticed. She'd smile, but her eyes, cold. Across the street from both couples lived Mrs. Chen, 82, whose insomnia kept her at the window most nights. Movement after midnight, cars switching driveways, the American man visiting the Indian house when the husband worked late, the Indian woman bringing food to the American house during afternoons. Their friendship confused colleagues. Arjun's coworker James raised concerns during lunch. Look, I know Greg. Before he got that radio gig, he worked here. Got fired for obsessive behavior with a female client. Just be careful. Arjun dismissed him. Americans always think the worst. Meanwhile, Greg's radio show took a strange turn. What if the person you're married to isn't your true match? What if society's rules prevent us from finding our actual soulmates? Tonight's topic, cultural boundaries and romantic destiny. Listeners called in, unaware the host was conducting his own experiment. Tessa's antique shop neighbor, Patrick, noticed changes. She started restoring items with Indian designs, said she was expanding her cultural horizons, but her hands shook while working. The proposal came during their 6th dinner together. Security footage from Rosa's cafe shows Greg leaning forward, whispering. The others freeze, then nervous laughter. Nods all around. Rosa, I couldn't hear them, but they ordered champagne after. A celebration. Mrs. Chen's night vision security camera captured the first swap 3 days later. Cars exchanging driveways at exactly 9 p.m. Lights dimming in both houses simultaneously. She sighs. Marriage should stay sacred. I knew this would end badly. What Mrs. Chen didn't know yet? Just how badly it would end. Have you ever known people who crossed boundaries of such in your environment? The arrangement began smoothly, a secret pact sealed with excitement and novelty, 4 adults consenting to explore beyond conventional boundaries. The first month, they all seemed happier, recalls Rosa from the cafe, more alive, like people who discovered something forbidden and wonderful. But beneath the surface, warning signs appeared. In Tessa's private journal, found later by police, her initial enthusiasm gave way to doubt. April 15th. It's exciting, but Greg watches Kavita differently than he watches me. Not just desire, possession. Should I be worried? April 28th. Greg asked about her childhood in Mumbai again. He's learning Hindi phrases, says it's cultural appreciation. It feels like more. At Westside Pharmacy, technician David Kim noticed changes in Greg's prescriptions. He'd been on mild anti-anxiety medication for years. Suddenly he stopped refilling. When I asked if everything was okay, he said he'd found a better cure. His pupils were dilated. Not from drugs, from fixation. Kavita's food blog shifted tone. Her post, Bitter and Sweet, the duality of cardamom, contained a coded message. Some spices seem perfect at first taste, but leave an aftertaste that warns of danger. Like relationships that begin with sweetness but slowly reveal their toxicity. Her readers commented on the surprisingly dark turn her writing had taken. The Whitfield's next-door neighbor, retired psychology professor Dr. Winters, observed Greg's changing behavior. He'd stand at his window watching the Mukherjee's house. Not casually, studying it, tracking movements. I recognized the pattern from my research on obsessive attachments. One Tuesday afternoon, Arjun received a call at his office. It was Tessa, his assistant later testified. She sounded anxious, asked when he'd be home, if he'd be alone. When he hung up, his face changed completely. That evening, Tessa's journal contained her final entry. I can't allow this to continue. Tomorrow I'll tell Kavita what I found. The photos, the recordings, his plans. God help us all. The next day, Tessa missed her antique store opening for the first time in 7 years. Do you think you know where this is heading? Where? As tensions grew between the couples, an unexpected visitor arrived. Mrs. Sanyal, Arjun's aunt from Kolkata, wheeling her suitcase up the driveway one crisp morning. I came for a simple visit, Mrs. Sanyal told investigators. Instead, I walked into something terrible. A retired school principal with razor-sharp perception, Mrs. Sanyal noticed immediately that her nephew's marriage had changed. Kavita avoided eye contact with Arjun. They spoke to each other like strangers, and that American man kept calling with flimsy excuses. The neighborhood reacted to Mrs. Sanyal's traditional Indian clothing and direct manner. Rita from the HOA organized an impromptu cultural welcome party, which Mrs. Sanyal later described as an interrogation disguised as hospitality. They asked if I approved of American-style marriages, Mrs. Sanyal recalled. I said marriage is sacred in any culture. The room went quiet. Mr. Dorsey, retired police officer and neighborhood watch coordinator, began documenting the Mukherjee's activities after Mrs. Sanyal's arrival. Just doing my duty, he explained, showing pages of notes. Foreign visitors sometimes bring different values. I noticed the Indian lady watching houses through her window, taking notes herself. What Mr. Dorsey didn't know, Mrs. Sanyal was documenting Greg's appearances at their home. 3 times in one day he came, each time with a different excuse, returning a dish, asking about Indian cooking, bringing mail delivered wrongly. His eyes never left Kavita. At St. Mary's Church, Father Collins noticed Tessa attending confession more frequently. She asked if breaking a promise was a sin if keeping it would cause harm. I told her preventing harm outweighs keeping dangerous promises. 2 days before the murder, Mrs. Sanyal entered Kavita's home office to borrow reading glasses. Instead, she found a drawer filled with handwritten notes. Dozens of them, all from Greg, declarations of love, claims they were meant to be together in past lives. And more disturbing, details about Kavita's daily schedule she never shared with him. Mrs. Sanyal confronted Arjun that evening, but he dismissed her concerns. American friendships are different, he insisted. The next day, Mrs. Sanyal installed a lock on Kavita's bedroom door. Have you ever ignored warnings from family about someone in your life? July 17th, a Thursday that began like any other summer day. Mrs. Chen watched the street from her window. At 6:15 p.m., Tessa returned with a large shopping bag. Unusual, she typically worked late Thursdays. High school student Jeremy, delivering pizza across the street, observed more. The Whitfields were arguing. I heard glass break. Mrs. Whitfield yelled, "You won't get away with this!" Then a man slammed the door. At 7:30 p.m., a neighborhood-wide power outage hit, lasted exactly 43 minutes. I offered Mrs. Sanyal some candles, recalls next-door neighbor Brenda Willis. Through their window, I saw Arjun pacing, checking his phone. Kavita sat motionless at the kitchen table. Meanwhile, across the street, multiple witnesses reported seeing Greg's car leave at 7:45 p.m. during the blackout. Headlights cut through darkness, had said jogger Michael Quinn. Greg nearly hit me. He drove like someone escaping something. At the radio station, night manager Terry confirmed. Greg arrived for his 8 p.m. show. Seemed normal. Said he'd prepare in his office before going live. But security footage later revealed Greg entered through the back, signed in, then immediately left through the same door, creating an alibi. During the power outage, 17-year-old twins Lily and Jason were taking night photos in their backyard. Their time-stamped images captured a silhouette crossing between houses. Police enhancement showed someone carrying what appeared to be a metal object. At 9:22 p.m., Mrs. Whitfield's phone sent its final text. I know everything. Meeting him now to end this. If anything happens to me, the proof is in the... The message stopped mid-sentence. At 10:05 p.m., the unexpected discovery came from 12-year-old Tommy Brooks, retrieving his drone that had crashed near Tessa's workshop. I saw her through the window, not moving. I thought she was sleeping until I saw the red. His panicked mother called 911. By midnight, police lights painted Maplewood Heights in rotating blues and reds. Detective Isabel Marquez arrived, stepping into a case where nothing and no one was what they seemed. Subscribe now if you haven't yet. This case takes twists you won't see coming. Detective Isabel Marquez surveyed the workshop where Tessa Whitfield lay motionless beside an antique brass candlestick. 20 years on homicide, and this looks textbook, she told her team. Crime of passion, no forced entry, victim knew her killer. Officer Raj Patel, 3 months on the job, noticed details others missed. The candlestick had been polished recently, he noted. Who cleans a murder weapon before using it? Initial evidence pointed directly at Arjun Mukherjee. His fingerprints on Tessa's doorframe, a heated phone call between them that afternoon. A neighbor's statement about cultural views on women who stray. Greg Whitfield arrived from his radio station, collapsing at the police line. My Tessa, he sobbed, photographers capturing his grief. Who would do this to her? Officer Patel watched carefully. His shoes were spotless, strange for someone who rushed from work through wet grass. The station received 3 calls suggesting Arjun's guilt before police even questioned him. Anonymous tips, Marquez noted, all mentioning his foreign temper and cultural background. Someone's pushing a narrative. When questioned, Arjun appeared shocked but composed. His alibi, working late, confirmed by security logs and colleagues. Mrs. Sanyal's behavior raised eyebrows. She refused to sit for questions. Insisted on standing by windows, checking sightlines to both houses. She's hiding something, Marquez decided. What truly shifted the investigation? Mrs. Sanyal's dramatic gestures toward Greg whenever he approached their home during the investigation. In my culture, we recognize evil when we see it, she told Officer Patel in Hindi, assuming others wouldn't understand. When police searched Arjun's home, they found something that changed everything. A handwritten letter from Tessa, dated the day of her murder. Arjun, I need to show you what Greg has been collecting. Photos of Kavita, recordings, maps of her daily routes. He's planning something. Meet me tonight. Come alone. The letter was found in a sealed envelope, unopened. Arjun had never seen it. If you think the killer is obvious, wait until you see what comes next. Local news outlets painted Arjun Mukherjee as the prime suspect within hours. Foreign husbands rage, cultural honor killing, screamed one headline. Another questioned, did immigrant values lead to murder? Maplewood Heights split into camps, those supporting the Mukherjees and those convinced of their guilt. We're not prejudiced, insisted Rita from the HOA, but they kept to themselves. And in certain cultures, women who violate marriage, she left the implication hanging. Mr. Dorsey's testimony damaged Arjun further. I witnessed him arguing with Mrs. Whitfield 3 times. Once, he mentioned consequences for disrespecting marriage. What Mr. Dorsey omitted, the full quote, was about consequences of miscommunication between cultures. Detective Marquez, sensing the investigation veering off course, called in Miss Farzana Qureshi, a cultural liaison with the department. What you're describing isn't Indian culture, Miss Qureshi explained to the investigation team. It's stereotyping. These assumptions are hindering your investigation. She pointed out overlooked evidence, Arjun's consistent alibis, the unopened letter, Mrs. Sanyal's protective behaviors toward Kavita, not Arjun. Meanwhile, Officer Patel discovered Kavita's food blog contains subtle warnings. Her post, When Sweet Turns Bitter, describes a dish that appears harmless but contains hidden dangers. The recipe includes steps to escape the heat and find safety in unexpected places. She was reaching out for help. The case took another turn when tech experts found deleted audio files on Greg's computer, recordings of Kavita's voice, edited to create fabricated conversations between them. As pressure mounted, Mrs. Sanyal shocked investigators by declaring, I am responsible for what happened. The room fell silent. Not for the murder, she clarified, for failing to protect that poor American woman. I saw the danger in that man's eyes, but did nothing because I thought Americans handle their own problems. She turned to Detective Marquez. The real killer sits in your station every day, pretending to help, crying false tears. Comment if you think cultural misunderstandings are making the police miss something important. Officer Patel couldn't shake his doubts. While reviewing security footage from houses near the crime scene, he noticed something the team had missed. The initial search focused on cameras facing the workshop, he explained to Detective Marquez. But Mrs. Chen's camera pointed at the street shows Greg's car returning at 8:27 p.m., directly contradicting his radio station alibi. Simultaneously, Rosa from the cafe approached police with crucial information. The day before the murder, Greg and Kavita argued here. He grabbed her wrist when she tried to leave, said something about destiny and removing obstacles. When I approached, he transformed instantly into charming neighbor Greg. Forensic analysts re-examined the candlestick, discovering microscopic fibers trapped in the brass design. Leather gloves, confirmed the lab technician, and we found identical fibers in Greg's car, along with traces of the metal polish Tessa used in her workshop. Mrs. Chen finally revealed what she'd been watching for months. The night before the murder, Greg stood outside the Mukherjees' home for 40 minutes, not moving, just watching. I have it recorded. She handed over memory cards from her security system. I thought it wasn't my business. Now a woman is dead. Tech experts analyzed Greg's radio broadcasts, discovering a pattern in his late-night monologues. He referenced cultural bonds and false marriages 17 times in 3 weeks, reported the analyst. His final show before the murder included a segment on removing barriers to true love and karma punishing those who interfere. The most damning evidence came from Tessa's cloud storage, discovered when her sister accessed her accounts. Photos showed Greg following Kavita to work, to shopping, to her gym. A document titled Our Future contained detailed plans for a life with Kavita, after resolving current obstacles. With mounting evidence, Detective Marquez prepared to question Greg again, just as Kavita requested protection. I need to tell you what really happened, she said, hands shaking. Before he comes for me too. The police station interview room fell silent as Detective Marquez laid out the evidence against Greg Whitfield. Your radio station alibi is false. Security footage shows your car near the workshop during the time of murder. We found leather glove fibers matching those in your car on the murder weapon. Greg maintained his composure. This is absurd. I loved my wife. Officer Patel placed a folder on the table. Your Google timeline contradicts your statements. Your phone tracked to Tessa's workshop at exactly 8:42 p.m. Technology makes mistakes, Greg insisted, voice steady. Then Kavita entered, flanked by Mrs. Sanyal. Tell them what you told me, Detective Marquez said. Kavita's voice was quiet but firm. Greg believed we had some cosmic connection. Said Tessa and Arjun were obstacles to our destiny. When I ended our arrangement and told him never to contact me again, he became different. She's lying, Greg whispered, eyes fixed on Kavita. The wife swapping was your idea, Kavita continued. A way to get close to me. Tessa found your journal, all your plans about us, the photos you took without my knowledge. She called me that afternoon, wanted to show me everything. Greg's calm facade cracked. Tessa had no right to interfere. We were meant to be together across lifetimes. Detective Marquez reconstructed the events. You discovered Tessa planned to expose your obsession. During the power outage, you went to her workshop, knowing neighborhood cameras would be disabled. You killed her with the candlestick she'd just polished, then staged your radio station appearance. You don't understand, Greg said, voice rising. Kavita and I share a soul connection these Western marriages can't contain. My wife is dead because of your soul connection? Greg's producer asked from the doorway. The station received this an hour ago. He played a voicemail from Tessa. Greg's not at the station. He just attacked me. If anything happens, the recording cut off with a scream. Greg lunged toward Kavita. We can still be together. Officers restrained him as his calculated persona dissolved into rage. Greg Whitfield was convicted of first-degree murder. In court, prosecutors revealed the extent of his obsession. Journals documenting Kavita's daily movements, altered photos of them together, and detailed fantasies of their destined life. He weaponized cultural differences, the prosecutor explained, using our community's ignorance to cast suspicion on Arjun while hiding his own crimes. The Mukherjees couldn't remain in Maplewood Heights. Too many neighbors had believed the worst about them, fueled by prejudice disguised as concern. We moved to Seattle, Arjun later shared in a rare interview. Started over where no one knows our story. Kavita discontinued her food blog but eventually published a memoir titled The Invitation, examining how small boundary violations grow into life-altering dangers. Mrs. Sanyal stayed in America, becoming an advocate for cross-cultural understanding. She now conducts workshops for police departments on avoiding cultural bias in investigations. The warning signs were visible, she reminds officers, but only if you look with clear eyes, not through lenses of assumption. Officer Patel received a promotion for his attention to overlooked evidence. Detective Marquez now requires cultural liaisons on cases involving immigrant families. Rita from the HOA attended sensitivity training. Mr. Dorsey publicly apologized for his misleading testimony. Mrs. Chen installed better security cameras and no longer hesitates to report concerning behavior. What appears as a cultural misunderstanding may actually be danger hiding in plain sight, she says. Speak up before someone gets hurt. The wife swap arrangement that led to Tessa's death began as consensual experimentation. The fatal flaw wasn't the arrangement itself, but failing to recognize when fantasy became a dangerous obsession. In relationships, the deadliest red flags often appear as mild warning signs, dismissed until too late. Would you notice them in time? Like, subscribe if you haven't, and tell us in the comments. What warning signs did people miss in this case? Your insight might save someone's life. Until next time, remember that boundaries crossed in the name of desire rarely stop at the first line, and the most dangerous predators often wear the masks of ordinary neighbors. Stay safe, stay aware, and thank you for joining us today. See you on another story from the Altar of Secrets. Bye for now.